Over the last 2 or 3 decades, we've given a lot of attention to how to support the growth and development of children in the first 1,000 days of life, and justifiably so. This part of nutrition sets the foundation for health for the rest of their life. And more recently, we've also increased a little bit our attention on the growth and development in late adolescence, when people are becoming young adults and maturing and finalizing, shaping their physical and emotional well-being. Particularly for young girls who are entering reproductive age. However, before this, middle childhood, the 5 to 10 year period, and the beginning of adolescence, the 10 to 15 years of age, where is the bulk of age and time that children spend in school and what we would call formal education. This period constitutes the last major window of opportunity to influence growth and development and become productive adults. This is a period of major changes, major inflections. You go from relatively steady growth at the beginning of childhood to these sudden bursts of body growth and tissue and systems growth and reorganization of the brain. And all this, of course, is accompanied with social and emotional changes. And some of the gains you make during this period, you really cannot fully recover in adulthood. Unfortunately, despite this being a major opportunity for long-term health, compared to all the other periods of the life cycle, the school years have received the least attention. The scientific literature on nutrition and health for children in this part of the life cycle is tiny when we compare it to what we now understand of early infancy and what we understand of adults, and even what we understand of late adolescence. So the interest will continue to grow. During this period, there are a number of changes and evolutions which will ultimately help transform a child to an adult. And many of these happen in relatively quick bursts. So we go, for example, from the lowest BMI we have when we enter middle school to the fastest gain in BMI and adipose tissue that we will ever have in life, especially in girls, for example. When we compare school years to the first 2 years of life, there is a sudden gain in height. In fact, we come very close to the fastest gain in height that we had in the first 2 years of life when we reach the earlier stages of adolescence. So during this period, you will reach final height, you will reach most of what is bone mineralization, and much of this you will not be able to recover from if you don't gain it during this period. In the brain, there is also a significant growth of gray matter, but more importantly, there's a reorganization of neurons and connections. They increase brain efficiency, which of course is very important for school age, where it is absolutely fundamental that you improve cognitive function and organizational skills. For example, the ability to understand and become good in a second language. These abilities all peak during this period. In addition, of course, all these body and brain changes, together with environmental influences, are going to shape the emotional and the social behaviors, increasing the autonomy of children. And of course, during this time, their decision-making improves. They define themselves closer to what is going to be an individual. And many of these changes, of course, will not happen without adequate nutrition. Lifelong dietary and lifestyles, finally, are also established during this time. So there's a behavioral component to what the future of diet and intake is going to be in these children. Children are consuming meals outside the home, more in the community, and of course in school. So they increase their decision-making with regards to the diet, and that's going to shape also their future. Now, lastly, it is important to understand that this is the last opportunity we have for children who had deficiencies when they were young to overcome them. And it's the last time we have for catch-up. And when I mean catch-up, not only in growth and height, because we do have some children who are stunted in early childhood, but this is the last opportunity to also catch up in cognitive development. So we need to see this period as a last opportunity for investment in nutrition to accumulate nutrition and health capital that will be needed for the rest of their life. Well, the first thing is to improve our knowledge. We really need to gather information on the state of nutrition for children who are in school age. We need to understand what the status of nutrition and growth is, in particular because most of the international and global databases that track health and nutrition in children, and sometimes in great detail, they go to about 5 years of age and then they stop. And then you pick up all this information that we have for adults, and as I mentioned, increasingly for late adolescents and girls. So many are recognizing that we need to improve this understanding and our knowledge. UNICEF in particular is finally recognizing nutrition in school years as a very specific goal, a time where you can seize this window of opportunity for growth and development. And they have included it now in the nutrition strategy for UNICEF for the years 2020 to 2030. And within that, UNICEF, for example, follows key areas of results in areas of nutrition for the global population. And they have now included this as a programmatic priority for the next decade. And the specific component of this is a result area which is defined as nutrition in middle childhood and adolescence. And this encompasses, of course, all the prevention programs for malnutrition and improving nutrition for this age range. And they've actually published a programming guidance for nutrition during school years. And then aside from improving our knowledge, of course, we need to improve education. And education is going to be a responsibility of everyone. There's a responsibility at home, in the community, of course, in schools. And schools are a particular area where we can focus on to improve education. And everybody has to be involved, including the government and the private sector, of course. It is a true opportunity to invest in this last opportunity for growth and development for the future of everybody.